Welcome to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast, where we talk all things Panther City Lacrosse Club. Now here are your hosts, Nicholas and Andy.
Well, for Panther City, it was win or go home in the franchise's first playoff game against the Calgary Roughnecks. Welcome everyone to the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse Podcast. I'm Nicholas, joined by Andy.
Hello, hello.
Panther City came into this game looking to play upset, just as the Colorado Mammoth did only just the night before against San Diego in a kind of surprising but unsurprising to us game that was on a Friday night.
Yeah, we spoke about it before, but Colorado was obviously a better team than their record showed. Plus, they have a bit of that edge or swagger coming from last season winning the chip there. So it's hard to call them a proper fourth seed, and they showed exactly why in that upset win against San Diego.
Right, and so with them winning, I hate to point this out, but until that game, until the Panther City game, we were actually 3-0 on our predictions for who was going to win those games. I mean, the Buffalo took care of business right before the Panther City game, and then the night before, Toronto took care in their home crowd. So it was kind of gearing up, trying to kind of get our hopes up before this game. Like, hey, we got 3 right. What about this 4th one?
Yeah, that's for sure. Though, I think right off the bat, was it announced Friday or Saturday? There was immediately a wrench in Panther City's playoff plans.
Oh yeah. It was, I believe it was Friday, but yeah, we had gotten a notice from the team saying that unfortunately Coach Tracy Kelusky was out with some kind of illness. They didn't specify exactly what it was, but of course, I mean, all of our thoughts are with Coach TK and whatever happened, and hope he's feeling okay. But yeah, we had our defensive coach out there kind of leading the way for us that night.
Yeah, and Coach Steve Toll, he has a lot of big game experience. When he played, he won 5 titles as a player with Toronto, and actually even won the first ever Transition Player of the Year award. And I know he's the defensive coordinator, but given that and given Medeiros' play this year, part of me thinks, that can't completely be a coincidence if he's got a coach like Toll being able to help him out.
Well, and I will say this: I feel like Toll is probably one of the more animated coaches on the benches, especially at the home games. You can see him up there just like yelling back and forth, screaming, pointing, and I mean this was no different. But and then they even mentioned on the broadcast, they're like, well, if you're going to audition for a future head coaching gig, this is a good way to put it on your resume. But of course, this is kind of not the situation you want to be thrusted into a head coaching position. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely kind of a setback in a way because I think Tracy's just kind of like the heart and soul of that team sometimes. And so without him there, just kind of put a little, I guess, pulled a little wind out of our sails, you could say.
Yeah, and not only that, but to learn just a day before you're supposed to play, you're probably preparing. They were probably preparing for the past 2 weeks since we had that bye week of knowing that they were going to go in not only full strength on the field, but also with their coach who's led them all season. That being said, again, Steve Toll has a lot of experience in these sorts of situations as a player. He's been coaching for a long time as well, so he's not a bad second in command guy to have for these situations.
For sure, and like we said, I mean, hearts and thoughts go out to the Coach TK. Hope he's feeling better now. But yes, we actually, me and Andy, we both had the opportunity to go to our first official watch party for this one in Fort Worth. It actually kind of worked out. I was off of work. I think you were finally free. You had some plans that day, but were free enough to come over. So yeah, I mean, good on Panther City for getting the word out there. And we traveled over to Fort Worth to have an official watch party for this playoff game.
Yeah, it was nice to see Panther City take over the big screen.
Yeah, for sure. And so, the game started in Panther City fashion. It was weird. The game started and everybody's excited to watch the game. Medeiros, right off the bat, he's like, oh, I got the ball. I'm going to go score. And he starts charging towards the goal. But he gets pretty much knocked out, is for lack of better words. And as he's like laying in the corner, Calgary takes advantage, gets a goal early on. 31 seconds in, they go up 1-0.
Yeah, that was as obviously you and I have watched the team this entire season. So seeing not just Medeiros get banged up that early, but seeing us give up a goal less than 30 seconds into the game, you're kind of thinking, oh gosh, here we go again, giving up those early easy ones. And so there was a bit of like, is this foreshadowing? Hopefully it isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
thankfully it wasn't.
Well, and I will say this: the fact that Calgary scored that fast, it was almost like a power play, like a quick power play for them. 5-on-4.
Right.
They had the advantage. So you can't be you can be upset about it, but at the same time you have to take that into consideration. And you say it doesn't last long because not too long after that, Dodds, man, showing up in the playoffs, he gets a good score. Not even a minute in, we're tied 1-1.
Oh, it was Donville actually, I
Oh,
think,
was it
because
Dodds
yeah,
or Donville?
yeah.
Sorry.
So basically, after the face-off, Burton got checked pretty tough, so that put Panther City on the power play, and soon after that, Donville coming up the left side, he was faking. He had the stick kind of over his across his right shoulder and was driving in that way, and then quickly transitioned to his left, threw a few shakes out, and then got it past Del Bianco for the score. So it was nice to see them react that quickly.
Right, and like I said, just not even a minute in. Well, I mean, he gets the goal, and then Crawford, man, I tell you, it's good to have that veteran on our team because not what a minute later, Crawford getting hot early, he gets another goal, up 2-1, already 2 minutes in.
Yeah, that was a classic Crawford post up. When his back is to the goal, even though he can't see it immediately, the trouble having to defend that place, you don't know what he's going to do, whether he's going to roll right, roll left. In this case, yeah, it was a perfect classic Showtime post up.
Oh yeah, and I mean, again, I'm glad he's on our side, but I mean, really, it was really kind of a bad start for us overall. Getting Medeiros hurt, kind of right off the bat, and giving up that goal. But good comeback, like you said. And honestly, after that first goal, our defense was playing good.
Yeah, they were really limiting Calgary to tough shots. And Damien, of course, was doing his thing in that. He shook off those first goal jitters, if you will, and started playing really solid.
Well, and so after that, I mean, yeah, we was a little bit back and forth, but man, our offense was staying strong. Donville, again, he got the ball and he was just one-handed pass to Caputo right in front of the goal. Caputo knocks it in. The doctor showing up in our playoff game, 3-1.
Yeah, it was almost like I don't know, the way that he passed it to Caputo was serving it up on a platter to him, just extending his stick out, the ball coming off of it, landing perfectly in Caputo's cradle, and yeah, just him getting that quick hitter right in front of the crease.
Well, and this was, I mean, at that point, I mean, we're all, super excited at the watch party. Everybody's going crazy. We're like, yes, up 3-1. We got to keep it going. Even the team, I think, had to think to themselves, we got to keep this going. Because like not too long after that, Crawford, he was going in and he did kind of a spin in and try to get a goal, but it got waved off. But the
Yeah.
coaches threw out the challenge flag. I mean, after review, we obviously saw that his foot was on the crease. That's why they waved it off. But I think it was a good challenge by the coach, especially by at that point, because you just got to keep the momentum going for the team, especially.
Yeah, because you look at it, hey, had his foot not landed a split second later or something, then we go up 4-1 early on a team with an elite goalie.
Hmm.
So it would have it was absolutely worth it in my eyes as well.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, we didn't get that goal called. So we were only up what 3-1 at that point. And then we got our first TV timeout, and honestly, I think that kind of broke the momentum a little bit for us because it was
Yeah.
what a few seconds after that TV timeout, Calgary kind of settled down and they get a goal. And so next thing you know, it's 3-2.
Yeah, Tyler Pace scored quickly right off the bat. And it is unfortunate because prior to that timeout, Calgary actually had multiple opportunities to score, but Daymute and the defense were making great stops over and over again. So I guess having a little chit chat with their coach is what finally got them settled in.
Well, and I'm sure he had a few choice words after that first 5 minutes
Right.
by us, but so they kind of settled down, keeping it close. But again, Crawford, doing his wily vet things. I mean, he gets a great pass to Dodds, and
Yeah.
and, and Dodds this time, yes, and gets a great goal, and then we're back up 4-2.
Yeah, yeah, a beautiful pick and roll between the two of them. We've seen it quite a few times this season. It always seems to happen with the righties on the team, whether it's Crawford to Dodds or Crawford to Caputo. It's really nice to see when it works because you can almost see the play coming, and you're like, oh, nice. I don't think the defense is going to catch it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so Dodds, making his presence felt there, and Crawford. I mean, I had said a few weeks ago, these are the players that we need to show up to have these wins, and Crawford was definitely making his presence felt, but showing his worth early on in this game.
Yeah, yeah. First with that goal of his own, and then setting up other guys, and then of course doing all the little things that might not go in the box score, like setting up picks, operating the offense along with Donville and the other guys. So yeah, yeah. Going up 4-2 early on was, I can't say it was what I was expecting against a team like Calgary, so I was very pleasantly surprised.
Well, and speaking of a team like Calgary, we can keep them down, but they just won't go away. They came back shortly after that. Cook, he's a good player, man. One-handed goal by him, 4-3. I even turned to you after that goal. I was like,
Yeah.
that's one of those ones you can't be mad about.
Yeah, we just looked at each other like, well, at least we're still up.
At least we're still. No, I'm serious. Like this how he handled it, and he just went right in front of Daymud and somehow just dunked it in. With one hand the whole time. His
Yeah.
other hand was pretty much being held.
Yeah, as someone who's, held a lacrosse stick before and played, I can't imagine just the balance of weight, having the wrist strength to be able to do that with enough coordination to actually get the ball where you want it to and get it past the goalie who's trying to prevent that. So it's
Yeah.
really impressive.
Well, and so that's again one of those goals. I mean, I've mentioned it a few times this year where I can't be too mad about it. But shortly after that goal, Grinnan gets in a good fight. He's in a penalty box along with their player, but it stayed 5-on-5. But penalties don't matter. At least penalty didn't matter then because Gaucher, man, he got a great goal after that. I even noted in there he had a little Madero slam into the boards after he got that goal
Yeah.
as we go up 5-3.
Yeah, he sure did. And the great thing about that, he was cutting on the left side of the goal, but was able to get it in over Del Bianco's left shoulder on the opposite side. So just to be able to score at that sort of angle was really impressive.
Well, and again, he's the kind of guy that takes advantage of the time he's given. I mean, he is literally the definition of what I just said, and he took advantage right there, getting that goal. Right after that, I mean, it seems like our offense was just playing a lot better, and even not only our offense, but like our defense was playing better. Our transition players were playing get better. Tony Malcolm almost gets a goal right after that too.
Yeah, yeah. He, although it didn't go in, I think if you pepper Del Bianco or any goalie with that many shot opportunities, eventually some are bound to go in. With the defense just won't have the energy to recover that many times in a row and play perfectly.
Well, and keeping that momentum going. I mean, Caputo. I mean, he's been a good difference maker. He gets another goal. At that point, we're what up 6-3. I think Calgary gets a goal after that, makes it 6-4. But I mean, we're showing up this game, and this is as we mentioned before. This can't be like one of the games we had before. This is something different.
Yeah, it was definitely the start that we needed in our first ever playoff game. And the announcers even said this might be the best quarter that Panther City has played all year long. I'm not too sure I would go that far, considering Calgary was still able to get a four on us, but it was the exact kind of quarter we needed against this sort of team. Because we've heard all the talk about Del Bianco being not just goaltender of the year, but a potential MVP candidate as well. So to see us come out that hot against them, whether it be, of course, scoring the goals, holding them to a fair amount, or just even pressuring them and forcing them to play physical. It, it was really nice to see.
Yeah, and yeah, probably not, the best quarter we've ever played, but it's like you said, it's definitely what we needed. Into the first, I mean that was just the first quarter alone. I mean, into the first, we're up 6-4, feeling pretty good about ourselves. The second quarter, we'll touch on it here in a second. We were trying not to let the pace slow down, but Calgary started to kind of take control of the pace a little bit more on their side. A few minutes in, they get a goal. They go up 6-5, and then again, not too long after that, it's tied 6-6. And I was just like, well, this is what happens when things kind of start to sway their way.
Yeah, lacrosse, like most other games, is a game of runs. And I think near the end of that first quarter, their defense did certainly start picking up. Damu did have a great block and save on a dunk attempt by, I don't remember whether it was Cook or someone else. But beyond that, you could tell that Calgary did start playing with a bit more urgency, and that showed in their offense and how they were able to score in that second quarter.
Well, and I talk about pace a lot this first quarter and into the second quarter, but honestly, it felt like we controlled the pace in the first quarter, and the second quarter, Calgary kind of controlled it more because even after tying it 6-6, like we were able to get some shots off in between there, but unfortunately, even with our defense playing good, like you said, Damu getting some great saves. I felt like our defense was actually playing really good, but they get another goal and they go up 7-6. That's their first lead, since the first minute of the game.
And one thing that did hurt us after they did tie it up 6-6 on a Zach Courier shot. We had I don't remember what the penalty was, but it did lead to a power play, and Tyler Cook was able to score near the end of it for them to get the lead. And that would be a trend going throughout the game, to where these untimely penalties, whether it be substitution wise, checking or holding, whatever have you, did hurt us at inopportune times. Obviously, a penalty is going to hurt you regardless if you're unable to kill it off, but giving them those opportunities did really hurt us.
Well, and even after that, so finally, I think our offense started picking back up after that. We knew we were down. We got to kind of get back in this. There was a lot of shots on goal, but Del Bianco was playing, really good, obviously. But at that point, you had even mentioned like they're playing, they're shooting a lot of shots low.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, do they need to start going high? I mean, what were your thoughts when that was happening?
Yeah, and I feel like it's something I've seen multiple times this season where, obviously I'm not out there on the field with them, but going 5-hole or trying to go 5-hole that many times eventually makes your offense a bit too predictable. And those chances are those are easier shots to make than up high. Just the nature of you've got the ground working on your side too. But with a goalie as good as Del Bianco, I think you have to make a move around some. That way, that'll keep your offense more not frantic, but unpredictable. Or else he's going to see the same shots coming over and over again and know exactly where to go. So the drawback of that being their defense. Yeah, Del Bianco is a great goalie, but they have great defensive players as well. And those guys were really hacking and checking pretty hard. They were, especially later in the second half, which we'll get into, they were basically attacking us on the point of the catch, to where whoever was handling the ball never got a clear shot off, and they were forced to pass until the shot clock pretty much ran out. So credit to their defense. I do think that's something that the offense did need to work on a bit in terms of having more of a shot variety.
Well, and speaking on that, I mean, it did take something moving Del Bianco around a little bit crazy, a little bit Will Malcolm-y, I guess you could call it. I mean, Will Malcolm goes behind the goal, comes up from behind, gets a dunk, and nothing's called. Like the refs are waving it off.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, what just happened? He's sitting in the corner telling them to throw the challenge flag, and so the coach throws the challenge flag again. And again, after review, it was a little crazy, but man, Will Malcolm with that great dunk on Del Bianco, getting in a goal and ties it up at 7-7.
I think that's the best dunk I've seen as a fan of the National Lacrosse League so far. Just the amount of hang time on it, the fact that he stopped on a dime and then jumped, and it was funny. Part of the confusion was probably because Del Bianco, when he was trying to block it, actually moved the goal back a little bit to kind of add to the visual chaos that was going on. But I know both Grennan and Malcolm were telling coach to throw the flag, and they were saying on the telecast that he threw it just kind of based on their conviction that it was a goal. And so it's kind of like he threw it out and like, you guys better be right.
Right. Well, and it was funny because they showed the coach, they showed him while they were like reviewing the play because they reviewed it for a while. It was a
Yeah.
long review, and at some point he's just like, "It's an effing goal! Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?"
hmm
So
Yeah.
I mean, he was obviously convinced more so after seeing it, but yeah,
Right.
just kind of taking their word for it, which you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, this is his first full game serving as acting head coach. So it's good to get the, not that he didn't have it before, but it's good to show your guys that you have their back.
Right, and that was again a just good goal by Panther City to just be like, hey, we're still in this game, we're still keeping it close. Unfortunately, soon after King, I mean, he's one of their best players for sure. I mean, he gets a goal for Calgary. They go up, 8-7. It's just like a little bit back and forth, but not soon. I mean, at that point, I think Calgary or not Calgary, but King, I think had a hat trick at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was his first half hat trick, and he is one of the driving forces of their offense. They had a lot of guys that played well throughout the season, but during that first half, I felt like after that initial first quarter, there wasn't much we could do to stop him, whether it be scoring on his own or generating points for the rest of the team.
Well, and so going into halftime, I mean, we're down 8-7, but I just felt better about the team as a whole at that point, just because this is probably their best. I mean, okay, maybe their home game against Calgary at the end of the year was maybe their best first half, but this was right on par in my mind.
Yeah, yeah, it showed you, especially early on, that you could get a decent sized lead and cushion against an elite team, which, like you said, we did see in the season finale as well. But given the higher stakes of this, it was, and being on the road, it
Hmm.
was especially impressive.
Well, and a young team especially, kind of needs that for their confidence. We kind of saw it. In fact, I saw it right when I got there for the watch party, with Buffalo against who was it? Rochester,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Rochester.
yeah. I mean, a team can get deflated so fast, but if you can stick with it, I mean, that's almost where you want to be. You want to be kind of close in the thick of things and have that opportunity. And I think that did great for Panther City going into halftime. After halftime, though, man, we did not wait long to kind of make some waves. Like a few seconds into the third quarter, I don't know if you saw this, but I loved it. Damoud gets a great save in his glove.
Yeah,
He just caught the
yeah.
ball.
He was like a shortstop out there or something. You just saw him extend it, and all of a sudden he's just like tossing it out or putting it in
Yeah,
his net.
it was just crazy. Just like caught it out of midair, and he was just like, "Yep, there it is." And then right after that, Dodds on the other end gets a goal, and next thing you know, we're tied 8-8. I was thinking, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, yeah, it was so good to see. And we even brought it up already today, but Crawford and Dodds have such a good chemistry in terms of Crawford being able to break down a defense with the help of Dodds, either setting picks or kind of acting like he's out of the play and all of a sudden going in there, calling for the ball and getting a quick goal out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and so I thought at that point, like, okay, this will be kind of another back and forth quarter. Man, those teams had other
Oh,
thoughts.
yeah. Well, the ball definitely went back and forth,
Uh,
even though not much scoring happened with it.
well, and that's the crazy thing. Like, for the majority of the quarter, yeah, no goals, a lot of shots on both ends, but we had some great offensive rebounds. So the shot clock kept resetting. There's at one point Calgary thought they got a goal, and Damu stopped it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He thought he stopped it, which was amazing because they showed the replay of it, and this ball gets through Damu's pads, but slows down just enough and it lands on the line, but never crosses it.
yeah, yeah,
Damu lucky right there.
yeah. And the fact that it didn't break the plane, yeah, that was a very close call, and I'm glad that it went our way. But credit to both Panther City and Calgary's defense
Mhm.
in that third quarter. It was. It's not like the offenses weren't playing aggressive or anything. In fact, they were very lively and aggressive, but it was just matched with aggressive defense and great goalie play.
Oh yeah, from both sides. I mean, Del Bianco was playing great. Damu was playing great. Honestly, like this is the game Damu needed. He shook off that early goal. He came back. He held them. I mean, obviously, holding a team to 8 points in the first quarter or first half isn't amazing or anything like that. But against a team like this, I thought it was really good. And then to have a third quarter like that, where you hold them to no goals. I mean, that was great for him. I feel like.
Yeah, it was impressive. Though I will say one caveat: we did get a lucky break when Liam Patton kind of I think he got called for a roughing penalty on Jesse King, and King retaliated in such a way that the refs called a penalty on minors on both of them,
Hmm.
and so it you generally Patton's obviously a very good defender, but what King means to the Calgary offense, I think we did catch a bit of a lucky break for a big chunk of that third quarter. And Calgary couldn't find a good time to sub him back into the game either to disrupt the flow or disrupt their offense. So there were, I think it was maybe close to 3.5 minutes to where they were without one of their offensive juggernauts. So that was really, I'm glad it worked out.
Well, yeah, and finally, when they did kind of get everybody back on the floor towards the end of the third quarter, they were trying some shots on goal. We get a good stop, and then we toss it down, and of course, Hasek,
Yeah.
5 seconds left in the quarter. I mean, I thought we were just going to go into the fourth quarter tied. Nah, he had different thoughts. Hasek with the goal, 5 seconds left, up 98. Crazy that the first half was just crazy back and forth, but the third quarter was all defense. But great goal by him.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of funny how in such a defensive-minded quarter that Hossick's the captain, the defensive captain is the one that's scoring for us. And even before then, there was a brief period of time where Calgary was trying to get us with a little trickery, and they pulled Del Bianco to go 6-on-5, and thankfully it didn't lead to anything. It
Well,
would have been awesome if we could have gotten an empty netter out of it,
right,
but
and I remember that happening, and I was like, "What are they doing?" But they only kept him off the floor for like,
yeah, it was like one possession, I think.
yeah, well, not even that. It wasn't even a full possession because I think they said Del Bianco got back out there after like 10 or 12 seconds.
Gotcha.
But just kind of stuff like that it did end up working in our favor that nothing else happened. But yeah, going into the fourth quarter, up one like that. I mean, I'll be honest. I kind of had my hopes up there.
Yeah, I mean to have a lead on the road against this team, and then Burton even pours more gasoline on our on the fire of our hopes and dreams, and that he almost gets us another shorthanded goal. That's one thing we forgot to mention about Haas's goal. It was while we had a guy in the sin bin,
Hmm.
and we scored on that. So he was still in the penalty box, and then Tyler Burton almost gets one right afterwards in transition.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and with Patton, oh my gosh. Okay, so the fourth quarter happens. Patton diving in to hit a goal. It actually crashes into Del Bianco. Penalty called on Patton. Uh, I'll admit, I had a thought at that point. If if Del Bianco isn't 100%, they might sit him down for a few minutes, and that might work in our favor. I know that's a horrible way to think about it, but I thought, hey, this could work in our favor. Unfortunately, that penalty did lead to Calgary getting a score on a power play. They tied up 9-9, and then right after that, honestly, it felt like it was right after that. There was another penalty on us, and Calgary, just one after another. They go up 10-9 within minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it's interesting because up until that first power play goal by Tyler Pace to tie things back up at 9, Calgary had gone 18 and a half minutes without scoring, which is a feat in and of itself. So, of course, they're a great team, so they were able to take advantages of those power play opportunities. And those the second one they scored to go up 10-9, those are the ones that really kind of frustrate me just because it was on an illegal
Illegal
substitution.
substitution. Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier in the year too.
Yeah, I don't know who's keeping track of that on the bench to help tell guys when they can go out and when they can come in. And obviously accidents happen and stuff, but those those are like, I guess to use a basketball analogy, like ticky tack personal fouls that like barely count. It's like, okay, if you're gonna foul a guy, make him earn it. Whereas an illegal substitution, it doesn't have to do with like checking or roughing up a guy too hard or getting into a skirmish. It's just kind of like, oh, you stepped out of the bench too early
Stepped
and
out too
whatnot.
early.
So
Well,
it was frustrating, but
it's frustrating because we talked about it before. It's a judgment call almost, I think, and the refs have the ability to call that judgment, whether the guy's too close or not far enough or whatever.
yeah, and I'd have to review the exact rules, but I'm sure we could watch hundreds of games and just see it called a bit inconsistently from time to time.
Well, and again, I mean, I don't know if the NLL reviews their penalties or reviews rules every year, but that might be something they could look at in the future and maybe even make it a penalty where it's kind of like a what do they call it, kind of a minor penalty where maybe it just forces a change of possession or something. I mean, that's obviously something for the future. I just don't know. Like, I agree with you. It's a little ticky tacky. It shouldn't lead to a power play opportunity. But I mean, Calgary, our 5-on-5 this whole game, I felt like was on point. It's just unfortunately those penalties were catching up, and when they got that advantage, they took advantage.
Yeah, and by that point, being down by a point with about 8.5 minutes left, I feel like our offense was a bit more frantic after that. Like they were obviously Calgary, they had been applying defensive pressure for most of the game after that first quarter, and they increased it in such a way that they didn't really know how to react to that physicality. And so many of the shots we got were kind of outside on the perimeter or end of shot clock desperation heaves. So we weren't really getting the quality of shots that you would like to have, like we were in the first when we were getting so many right in front of Del Bianco and the crease.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so, like you said, that's about 8 minutes left. I mean, we had some good back and forth then. No goals. With about 5 minutes left, there was a penalty on Calgary, and I thought to myself, okay, well, here's our power play opportunity. We have to take advantage. And even the broadcast people said, I mean, they have to
Yeah.
take advantage of this right now. It's not like do or die right now because there's still some time left, but it just kind of felt like with 5 minutes left and this close of a game, we had to take advantage of what we had.
Yeah, and it would have been great because we would have also been able to take advantage of Damute's play in net after that second goal by Tyler Pace, where he had these two great back-to-back saves, just where he had to extend and dive to make the save on the ball. And then Donville had a oh man, there was this great opportunity to score soon before that power play, but Donville and Caputo got crossed up, and so they didn't crash into each other, but they definitely got in each other's way. And that to me, that would have been a great scoring opportunity had the path been cleared for Donville to get a decent shot off.
Yeah, and again, that just goes back to a young team.
Hmm.
Maybe having that extra experience, you don't have those kind of things happen. But the penalty, the power play for us, unfortunately, no goals. Hats off to Calgary. They were really good at killing the power play. They got some turnovers, was able to kill some time, and by that point, you're looking at a little over 3 minutes left. But then the next thing you know, Pace gets a score for Calgary, and they go up 11-9. Uh, that's where, as me personally, I was watching the game and I felt like, well, it might be
Yeah,
about that time.
yeah. That's and a 2 goal deficit with 2 minutes left. We also probably that's when you can kind of predict, okay, they're going to pull Damute from the net, which makes us that much more vulnerable. So not only are we going to be rushing to score points in a hurry, but we're giving up so much more on the defensive end.
And that's unfortunately what happened. We pulled David right after that. We tried to get some shots, like you said, it was a little frantic. Unfortunately, it leads to a turnover, and Calgary gets another goal. They go up 12-9, and I mean they pretty much just run out the clock at that point. I mean, uh, it was sad to see and it was sad to watch. Uh, and the final, of course, I mean, we're the end of the game. It's 12-9. Calgary wins, goes on to the next round in the playoffs. But I mean, I felt happy, even though we lost. I felt happy that we played such a good game up until pretty much up until the second half of the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. To still have that level of competition was very, very admirable and nice to see because when I walked in and that Buffalo Rochester game was still going on, I'm like
Yeah,
just thinking, oh gosh, well, I hope that doesn't happen to us.
right.
So yeah, for them to keep it close throughout and fight all the way through, going through scoring droughts and times where the ball might get past them to make some really great saves and plays on the ball and have some great offensive scores in there. It had everything but the W.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but we will talk about our final thoughts on this game. But of course, this brings us to our very special playoff edition, but also, unfortunately, the last one of this season. Mr. Andrews, stats of the game. Mr. Andrew, for our playoff edition, what stats do you have for us?
Okay, well, the first half, one thing that kind of became a bit of a trend, Calgary did win the Lucy battle 35-23 going into the second half, and they ended up winning that 65-56 overall. Now, 9 isn't necessarily a huge disparity, but those little things do make a difference. They also went 15 of 25 on faceoffs, so they won what is that? Three-fifths of them, 60% compared to our 40. Again, that might not necessarily make or break a game in the long run, but with this playoff intensity, every possession matters. The goalie battle was close as you would expect. Nick Damute, he saved 38 of 49 shots, over 77%. Del Bianco saved 37 of 48 shots for 77% flat. So really, that was kind of what you expected of the goalies. You might have even expected better save percentages and whatnot, but credit to the offenses for coming out with good game plans and learning how to combat them. But yeah, Damute and Del Bianco both played excellent. Panther City did end up with a lot less turnovers than Calgary, which is where I think that loose ball battle really favored Calgary. So we had 18 turnovers, Calgary had 26. So that's almost 10 less. But the quality of shots that they were getting probably did help out in the end. Oh, and also, we can't forget. So Calgary was able to convert 3 of their 4 power plays. Panther City had 3 opportunities. They were only able to convert 1 of them. Going into this game, Panther City was converting at roughly about 50%, and Calgary was only converting at a little over a third of their opportunities. So for them to flip that script to where we weren't able to get much out of the power plays and they were able to capitalize on theirs, it was pretty much the story of the game.
Well, yeah, and it's honestly those type of things and those obviously something like that, that kind of obviously swayed the game into Calgary's favor in the end. But it's little things like that make a difference. Well, of course, that is Mr. Andrews' playoff stats of the game. That brings us, of course, to our cool cat plays of the game. For me, there was a few, but there can only be one for this game for me, and that's the Will Malcolm dunk. I mean, even though it didn't even count to start off with, his effort on that play was just, I don't know, kind of crazy good and what we needed in the playoff game. Will Malcolm crazy dunk goal. That's my play of the game. What about for yourself?
I had a couple of honorable mentions. I thought Donville's almost like his waiter with a platter assist to Caputo in the first quarter was really nice. Hosig's goal at the end of the third to take the lead and put us up 9-8 was great. And that would turn out to be our last goal of the season. So had a little extra specialness in that regard. But I gotta go with you. That Will Malcolm dunk. I know watching it, part of me thought, man, had this been a home game and had we seen that live, the place would have gone crazy. So yeah, I have to agree with you there. That Will Malcolm dunk from right behind was excellent.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, it was a very, very good highlight in what was just a crazy, crazy game for us. But that's, of course, our Cool Cat plays of the game, which brings us to our, again, a playoff edition of our Big Cat players of the game. I'll let you go first on this one. Who's your players of the game for our first ever playoff game for Panther City?
Okay, I got to go offense and defense. On defense, I liked what Matt Hossack was able to do. He picked up 5 loosies, played solid defense, and was able to generate some offense as well. He had an assist, and he was able to score that. Was it the game tying goal? No, it was the go-ahead goal to put us up 9-8, which, as I said, ended up being the final score of the season. So it seems like whenever we need a goal and things are tight, even though he's a defender, he's able to make plays that matter. Now, unfortunately, that was the end of the third quarter rather than the end of the fourth, but I really like to see that he's been able to do that this season. On top of that, on the offense, it's tough. I think I would go with Patrick Dodds. Doddsy had those 2 great goals off of those Callum Crawford assists on the left side and a couple of loosies as well. I think those really helped keep the momentum in our favor in those moments and kind of, wrest control back to Panther City. If not for the rest of the game, then at least for substantial moments.
Yeah, and you know, I think the good thing about the offense side of our play for this game, it just seemed very balanced. Like there was a lot of people involved and a lot of opportunities. So that's big for almost everybody, obviously, in the offense. For me, Big Cat player of the game. We said he needed to show up, and I think, for honestly, I wrote this down. The man left everything on the field that night, including his heart. But Daymood, man, I mean, he had, you know, not a perfect game, but he had the game that he needed to. You know, obviously up until that very end. But when they pulled him, but you know, man, like I think it was just a great experience for him, and I think it was a great game for him, especially knowing that that's the last game of this season, because now you can go into next season knowing that he can do this when the spotlight's on him.
Yeah, I really should have mentioned him as my goaltender of the game as well for Panther City. But yeah, he, like you said, he played great throughout, especially against such a good team as Calgary was, and going head to head with who's probably, along with Dylan Ward, arguably the best goalie in the league.
Well, and speaking of which, I mean, that's the next round matchup, Del Bianco versus Dylan Ward. That's going to be an interesting matchup to see. But well, I mean, looking at this game, first ever playoff game for Panther City, what are your final thoughts about it?
First off, it was thanks to Panther City for putting on the watch party at the Aloft Fort Worth. It was really fun to be there in an environment with other fans. And as an extra bonus, it kept all of us dry as it was raining cats and dogs outside.
I was about to say, there was a huge storm coming through, and I knew it was going to be raining. I didn't know it was going to be that big of a thunderstorm.
Yeah, it's so funny because the reception on for the TV at the bar, it would go in and out throughout the game. And so I was able to get on my ESPN Plus and be a little hero of sorts for like 30-second spurts throughout the night.
Quick side story with that. It was funny. So the way their TV works is if the signal cuts out, it goes to almost like a screensaver
Yeah,
where there's
like
lots of
some
pictures.
major scene or something.
Yeah, and so like we started to get all like boo when it went out, and then there was a picture that came up of like a puppy or something, and so everyone was like, "Yay!" But yeah, no, thankfully it didn't last too long, and honestly, I think the longest outage was during halftime. So
So yeah, just being able to watch the franchise's first ever playoff game, an environment with a bunch of other fans is really cool. And as far as the game itself, I loved the fight that we showed. It was a tough way to end the season, but I love that we gave ourselves a chance, and we didn't even have Coach TK with us. I know Brian McLean, one of the defenders, was out. Brooker Muir didn't play. So there were some, I don't know if they were healthy scratches or injuries, but for us to do what we did with our head coach not being available and some changes to the rotation was very admirable.
well, I mean, for me, it was just it was amazing to watch because we kept it close. We left it out on the field pretty much, and showed up. That was the important part for me. I even told the guy who was helping get everything set up before the game for Panther City, I just want a good game. I want a good game from us. If we blow them out, great. I don't. It's not that I hate blowouts, especially when it's in our favor, but I wanted a game where we had a chance, and we showed up, and we did. I think it was a great game for Panther City. Even I mean, you can't say a great game with a loss, obviously, but I think it was. I think it was a great game for them to grow from. I think it was a great game for them to learn from. But it was a great game just for the fans and for us to watch because it was their first playoff game. You can't say like, oh, this team's been in the playoffs a bunch of years and all this other stuff, and oh, this is another year where they lose in the first round or anything like that. No, this is a team that in their second season as a franchise, they make the playoffs and put up a really good fight against one of the toughest teams in the NLL right now. So uh, again, I don't think there's no such thing as a good loss. I mean, obviously, I think there are some here and there, but I think if you were going to say this was a good loss, this was it, and it definitely helped Panther City look towards the future in a brighter way.
Yes, the social media team put up a great clip of Haas and Coach and just the entire team trying to lift each other's spirits because obviously they're pretty beat up. The younger guys that don't have a lot of experience, and then guys like Callum Crawford who have been in the league a long time but still haven't been able to get a championship.
Mm-hmm.
So Haas had a great speech telling them like, "Hey, we had an awesome year. It didn't turn out the way the team wanted, but these things take time. You're not necessarily going to be an overnight sensation by any means. And so the best you can do is just play your hearts out, leave it all out on the floor. And I think having that sort of leadership and hearing those words and just the team supporting each other are going to lead to great things in the future.
Yeah, and I saw that video as well. It's just you see the not only the youngness of the team because a lot of these players this was their first playoff game ever, but just the emotion from them. I mean, even people who you don't expect emotion from. I'll point out Will Malcolm. Like you don't expect emotion from him just because he's that star kind of mentality out there when he's playing. But man, like stuff like this, I mean, it does get to you, and so it's good to see them lifting each other up, being positive, and learning from this. And again, this team, we don't know what's going to happen in the off season. They might, people might move, players might leave, but for this year, I think it was kind of the perfect storm for everybody.
Yeah. It was just a great combination of like, hopefully he plays a good long time, but you could say like twilight of their career vets like Crawford, veterans who have been around a long time but haven't necessarily tasted the playoffs like Phil Caputo. Then you've got the rookies like Donville and Gaucher, second year players like Grennan and Dodds and whatnot that are getting a taste of it for the first time. And hopefully that'll do nothing but make them hungrier and make them want to build towards some future success. And I will say, I guarantee that we will beat Calgary at least once next season.
At least once.
If we play them more than once, I guarantee that we will beat them at least once.
Well,
hopefully Del Bianco's not listening right now. He's like,
I know, right? I was about to say,
that.
You know what? I think next year we've taken a step from year 1 to year 2. I think we're going to take even a bigger step from year 2 to year 3. So still a young team, still a lot to learn. Heartbreaking for sure, but hats off to Panther City as this ends their season for the 2022-2023 campaign. Well, for us, as me and Andy go with the Cowtown Cats Lacrosse podcast, the schedule is uncertain. We are going to go back and forth. We have some plans for the off season to get in some interviews, have shows. We'll probably go down to one show every 3 to 4 weeks, just because news for Panther City probably isn't going to be in a full swing during that time. But you never know. You never know what might happen. But we do have a lot of things planned and a lot of things set up, and we're looking forward to the off season for sure. You never know what's going to happen. There's lots of places we could go and lots of people we can talk to. So I'm excited for it, even though our season ends. I'm excited for the off season. What about for you, Andy? What are you looking forward to in the off season?
Well, I know in the immediate future the season for the league isn't over yet, so who knows? We might catch a few of these other games within our periphery, and maybe catch enough of them to make educated comments on them. But yeah, I'm glad that the guys are going to be able to get some rest. This has been a really, just personally speaking, a fun experience for me, kind of getting reacquainted with a game at a level that I wasn't even this acquainted with when I was actually playing field lacrosse.
Right.
So yeah. Thank you for inviting me to co-host this and really enjoyed watching and talking about lacrosse this season. It's been really fun.
Oh yeah, and I think that's going to make things even more exciting for next year when we take what we've learned from this season. Because honestly, we've done some things this year that I didn't even think that we would even be possible at the beginning of the season. Interviews with people who work for Panther City, getting to meet players of the team. I mean, you getting to go, meet the guys and talk to, Donville and Caputo and them.
Yeah, I don't think I would have gotten a hug from Nathan Grennan at the beginning of the year. That's for sure.
He might give you a high five or something, but not a hug.
Right.
But just the experience in itself has been amazing. We definitely are for sure. I know this for sure. Here in the next few weeks or so, we are going to have an end of the year awards for Panther City. I know we did one in the middle of the season, but of course there was a whole other half of the season going on still. So we'll definitely count that down here in the next few weeks and have a show for that. But like I said, the future is bright for us as well. We have lots of opportunities and lots of chances to do things during the off season, and I'm really looking forward to that. But unfortunately, Panther City season does come to an end, but with what I think is a step in the right direction.
Yes.
And as we go into the off season, I feel like there's just a new hope, not only for us as fans of Panther City, but for Panther City themselves. Again, we want to thank everybody, all of you who do listen to our show. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because this has been just kind of a fun experiment this year, but it's become something even more, and it's been great meeting every one of you and having people follow us on social media. Be sure to catch us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Soon we're going to have some videos and everything up on YouTube, so keep an eye out for that. But thank you all for listening this entire year. Once again, for the final time in the regular season and the postseason, I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Andy.
And we'll see you next time, but we'll see you soon because we got some stuff coming. So thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks and cheers, y'all.